Well, in today's video, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of living in Little Neck, Virginia Beach. Awesome neighborhood, but there's some drawbacks. We'll talk about all of that coming up. Hey, my name is Sam Santalone, and I'm a real estate agent in the Hampton Roads area. Goes from Virginia Beach through Williamsburg. I do videos every week about living and moving to the area. So today, we're talking about the pros and cons of living in Little Neck. I've done a video a long time ago about Little Neck, and things have changed. Prices have changed, circumstances have changed, so I want to give a more of an in-depth, detailed view of what it's like to live in Little Neck, pros and cons. I think that this is one of the more in-demand areas to live in Virginia Beach, but there are some drawbacks that people either might not know or might overlook that might influence whether or not it makes the most sense to live in Little Neck. So I'm going to first share my screen with you and show you where Little Neck is to give you a frame of reference. So looking on the map, you got Virginia Beach on the east side of Hampton Roads, and there's a big cul-de-sac. I keep talking about the cul-de-sac. That's a huge piece of land that sticks out kind of like a thumb in the middle of Virginia Beach, and that is Little Neck, this whole big section right here in the middle. Here are the pros to living in Little Neck. Number one is the school districts. This area has some of the most in-demand school districts in all of Hampton Roads. This area is great because it has a balance of style of house, location of house, but these school districts are still in high demand. For example, you have First Colonial High School district. You then have Lynn Haven Middle School, then Kings Grant Elementary or Kingston Elementary. And if you look on niche.com, you look at the rankings on those school districts or other publications, you'll see that they are in the higher tiers of rankings in most of these schools. Now, there are some specific ones, for example, Kings Grant, that has a little bit lower rankings, and you'll see a difference between that one and Kingston. So later we'll talk about why that matters coming up later in the video. But school districts are in high demand. You also have Cape Henry Private School, which is about 15 minutes away as well. So you're surrounded by good schools, and you're also not in the jet noise range like you might find in Great Neck or near the ocean front or in Southeast Virginia Beach where Kellam High School District in Ocean Lakes is. You're just far enough away from the jets to where you might hear some just randomly, a little bit, but it's not going to take over your day. You're not going to be outside hearing a bunch of jets. So that's another big plus to being in Little Neck. Now next, the neighborhoods are extremely quiet. I want to name the neighborhoods, most of them here, so you know what I'm talking about. Number one, Kings Grant, one of the most in-demand neighborhoods in all of Virginia Beach, is taking up the largest section of Little Neck. But then you have Redwood Farms, one of my favorites that's underrated, not a big one, but in the top left corner. We've got Mill Plantation, another amazing neighborhood, very unique houses in there. Also Bishopsgate, and further north than that, Little Neck Cove, Little Haven, and also Groveland Park, which is on the far southeastern section of Little Neck also. And these are all pretty quiet. So you'll find that they have this neighborhood feel, this real relaxed feel that a lot of people that want this style of house and location really gravitate to. That's one of the reasons why it makes it so much in demand. You get the access to lots of things close by, but also you're in a very quiet, kind of secluded area. And when you're in a cul-de-sac, the only people that go through to where you are the ones that have to, because it's that cul-de-sac. There's no cut through to the other parts of Virginia Beach. Now next is, it is convenient to shopping. I'll show you here. If you come out of Little Neck down to Little Neck Road and the corner of that and Virginia Beach Boulevard is massive. And so that goes all the way actually into Norfolk. But then if you go towards the ocean front, there are things up and down this road like stores. Home Depot is right next to Little Neck Road, which comes out of the whole neighborhood. And going towards the east side, you've got Hilltop, a bunch of stores over there. That's where your Target is. That's where Whole Foods is. That's where Walmart. You've got Kroger. Trader Joe's is over there. How could I forget Trader Joe's? And then going over to the west, you have Town Center, which is all the areas near Pembroke Mall. Another Target over there. So it's the closest to downtown that you have. So all through that road, just off of Little Neck, you're going to find plenty of options. Not to mention Lynn Haven Mall, which is down in the south eastern corner away from Little Neck. So lots of shopping, relatively close, anywhere from 15 minutes or less from Little Neck. Then another pro is that it's not like uber expensive compared to other parts of Virginia Beach. Now, I say that though to say that around the water in the north parts of Little Neck, you're gonna find that these are gonna be pretty expensive. I mean, $800,000, $1 million, up to $5 million sometimes along the water. So it's not that it's cheap, but I will say that Kings Grant, you can get a house in Kings Grant. It's gonna be upwards now of $700,000, $800,000 for the larger ones near the water, but you can get off the water, $500,000, $550,000, you know, even the 4s for lower priced houses. It's not like super cheap, but for what you're getting, I think you do get a lot for it compared to other places in Virginia Beach that you might be comparing it to. Then of course you've got the Little Neck Swim and Racket Club, which is right off of Little Neck Road as well. So if you don't have a pool at your house, if you don't want to drive too far away to play tennis, if you like that kind of stuff, outdoor activities, kid related stuff, the Little Neck Swim and Racket Club is right there. You get tennis year round and pool during the summertime. So if you don't have a pool and you live in Little Neck, this might be a good option to pivot over to. Then next is the community feel of Little Neck. The Kings Grant Farmers Market happens every first and third Thursdays through summertime into September. But then there's a Kings Grant Community League that kind of is the liaison between the city, helps organize community events, helps preserve the neighborhoods, and you have, for 20 bucks, you can just throw it into the pool and they will help maintain community areas. And also they have 3 properties in Little Neck that they maintain for residents use too. Really nice league inside the community that kind of helps preserve that community feel that most areas in not just Virginia Beach, but in the Hampton Roads area don't have to this degree. So I think this is an added benefit that is, you're not paying an HOA, so it's just an added benefit to getting into a Little Neck. So now the cons to living in Little Neck. It's not all roses living in here. So number 1, not all of Little Neck is in the same school district. So I talked about the positive of being in Little Neck because of the school districts. But sometimes people assume that wherever they live in Little Neck, it will be the same school district, and this can influence what you might want to do. For example, there are 2 elementary schools. Number 1 is Kings Grant Elementary School, and the other is Kingston Elementary School. And to show you, Kings Grant Elementary School is kind of on the eastern side of Little Neck, and on the northern and western side, that's where you have Kingston. Now check the school website so you can see where these districts start and stop, but I will say that when you go and buy a house in Little Neck, it will say which high school, middle school, and elementary school that this house falls in. And I do think that the demand of Kingston outranks the demand of Kings Grant Elementary, which might influence the prices just a little bit as well between one side and the other. So this is more a word of caution before going into Little Neck to buy a house, because it might change where you actually send your kids to school. Now on that same note, on the western side of Little Neck, there are 2 neighborhoods, Malibu and Kings Forest, that aren't in Little Neck proper. Malibu and Kings Forest are in totally different school districts, but they're so close to the rest of Little Neck that it feels like they should all be together. Just know that when you're going into the neighborhood and turn left and west into Malibu and Kings Forest, those are different, entirely different. The next one is, it's a big cul-de-sac. I told you the benefit of that, but the drawback is it's huge and it takes sometimes a long time to get out of the neighborhood. So for example, it might take you a good 5 minutes to get out of the neighborhood, out of Little Neck, into Virginia Beach Boulevard that goes out to the rest of Virginia Beach. So that's not huge, but when you're trying to get out of your neighborhood quickly because you have to go somewhere specifically, it can be frustrating to take, you know, literally 4, 5, sometimes 6 minutes to get out of the neighborhood to get to just the main road. The next is talking about the houses themselves, because a lot of these houses were built mostly in the 60s, in that general time period. There's a lot of cast iron plumbing that are in these houses. So that cast iron pipe can break down, and now that it's 60 years or more since these houses have been built, you'll find that some of these houses might have some drainage, some slow drainage. They might corrode. Those cast iron pipes could corrode or break down to where you might need to replace them completely, and especially if that's the line that goes to the street. The line from the house to the street itself is usually not covered by insurance that you might expect. So if you're getting a broken pipe and you have to replace that pipe, there's a chance that the insurance you got for your house might not cover that pipe, and that can be several $1,000s to replace. And so there is separate insurance you can get to insure against that specific pipe from the house to the line to the road. But just know that a cast iron pipe can corrode, and also it can break down and it might require replacement. And so if you you do have a house that was built in that time period, especially like a place like in Little Neck, make sure you see, if you can, which type of pipe you have, and as well as, if possible, what type of pipe runs to the street. To that point, with these floor plans, you have a couple other things. Boxy floor plans. These house styles in the 60s in that time period, you have more compartmentalized rooms. It's hard to find a more open floor plan, but if you find a house that the person has already opened up that floor plan, you might find that it feels like more modern, but also just an older house. So one trick is hopefully finding someone who's already done that before you have to, if you want to open up the house, or just realize that that's the style that these houses were built, and you have to kind of adjust to the location. Not to mention a lot of wood floors, which means lots of creaky floors, especially on the second floor. Some of these houses that can slope just a little bit. You know, in the bedrooms, you might hear those creaks and squeaks a lot. So if that bothers you, there's something else also to prepare for. Another thing is, one of the benefits of the neighborhoods are the fact that it feels like more natural, more relaxed, more kind of, it's not like cookie cutter. But on the other hand, they are, sometimes you might feel that as you drive through, they're kind of unkept, because these areas aren't necessarily manicured based on an HOA. There's no requirements, but at the same time, you'll find a lot more natural feel, and that's kind of the charm of Little Neck. The next thing is, I said it's affordable. At the same time, it's not affordable for everybody. For example, if you want a house for $300, $325, you're not going to find it in Little Neck. It's just the way it is. But you know, $450, $500, $550, you'll find some nice houses in there in that general range. But again, just know that it's not going to be super cheap. And another thing is, it's competitive. People want to be in this neighborhood a lot for all the reasons I talked about earlier. And so because of that, it's not easy to get a house in here all the time, because not a lot of houses in some parts go up on the market very often. And so when they do, people are very, very ready to go, especially near Kings Grant on the western side. Kings Grant is awesome, especially near the water. And if a house gets up on the market over there, it can go just like that, and often usually way over asking price, especially in this market. So for most pricing in Little Neck, you'll see houses anywhere from like the $400 to $500 price range on the south side of Little Neck. But again, then in these central sections near Kings Grant, for example, that's in the $500 to $650-ish range. Now along the water, you'll see $700 and higher, but generally speaking, anywhere from $500 to $650. But then if you go further north from there, Middle Plantation, $750 to start, usually $800,000, $900,000, especially on the water. It goes up from there. Little Haven and going up towards Little Neck Cove, these are in the $700,000 and up, $800,000, $900,000, $1 million and plus as you go further up into that natural area on the northern section of Little Neck. Now, if you have any questions about living in Little Neck, please let me know. I help people all the time move to this area, and especially I love Little Neck. So if you have any questions, let me know. I can give more context to what I'm putting in this video. I have my contact information in the description. You can reach out to me at any point, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I will see you on the next video.